Hi, you guys. Good evening. It is Monday. So much is going on. I hope you guys are having a great day. Well, it's almost over with. I am Celeta Mccall, and I want to talk to you guys again about my book. Okay, In Search of You, which is this book right here. Oh man, my lighting is terrible. Okay, but that's all right. And the other book is our workbook right here. Okay. So I'm going to share a couple of things with you real quick. I apologize for the lighting. My lighting is a little off. Um, my green screen, you can't see it. You only can see, you can't clip my wings down at the bottom. I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay. So I just wanted to stop by and kind of tell you a little bit about the book. I want to tell you some excerpts out the book. I want to tell you that you can get a copy of this book unsigned on Amazon. And if you want one signed, please contact me. Let me know, and I can get you a signed copy of the book In Search of You, which is a guide to finding your self-worth after a life-changing event. Okay? And then we have our workbook, you guys. And they go and coincide with that. You can buy one individually, but I really prefer for you to buy both of them because they make great combination with the information that you can put back in here. I mean, after you've read the book, you can use that information. I really like for you guys to think about getting an erasable pen to use in here because that erasable pen will definitely make a difference. So if you have a question or an answer that you want to change, down the road, you can change that answer. So let's go ahead and get started. Again, I want to say my name is Celeta Mccall, and I'm here to talk about my book because I would like for you guys to make these books, make these part of your self-improvement. If you have an area in your library that's just for your self-improvement, self-development, I would like for my books to be on your desk, on your shelf, okay? And I would like for you, if possible, that you can use these books in one of your settings with some of your girlfriends. Invite them over for some tea or some wine and have a little girls' night out and go through the book. It's not that much. It doesn't take long to read the book. And the workbook, you guys can kind of probably discuss some of these things together. That's what to me is very exciting, is being able to discuss out loud what would you actually write in the book. So if you guys are interested again in a copy of an unsigned copy of both these books, you can find them on Amazon.com under In Search of You by Celeta B. Mccall, or you can get a signed copy from me. Hit me up either in my inbox or you can go to info at, you can't clip my wings, and it's scrolling across the bottom of the screen, mywings.com, or you can hit me up at Celeta B. Mccall at gmail.com. I couldn't even remember that, okay? But again, if you want to get a copy of the book unsigned, you can find it on Amazon. A signed copy, you can get it from me. Email me, and I will definitely get you a copy of the book, these books. Okay? And if you want more, there is a discount if you order more. Like I said, if you get about 5 or 6 of your girlfriends together, we can talk about in our email. We can talk about the discount that you can get on ordering more than one set of the books. So if you're interested in that, let me know, and I'll definitely want to work with you guys on that. Now, so let's see what we want to talk about today in the book. I don't want to go through the whole book, you guys, because I want you guys to have a treat when the time comes. So there's a chapter, 2 chapters that I found in here that I wanted to really kind of talk about real quick. Let's see, that's the one I want. I'm sorry, I want these new books. And I just got some books in, so I'm just like excited, okay? I'm gonna use, these are my old books. So one of the chapters in this book is called, we have 2 of them that we're might be able to go over, because they're real short, they're not long. The 3 R's, and then we have one called, let's see, The other one was inner self, your inner self. Okay. So let's talk about the 3 R's. I guess you want to say, well, what is the 3 R's? The 3 R's is restoration, resolutions, and resiliency. Let me say that again. Restorations, resolutions, and resiliencies. As we discussed earlier, because we talked about restoration in previous chapters of the book, we talked about restoration. We mentioned that it means to think about taking back your power, restoring your mindset and reassuring that you can move forward. It says, now let's go a little deeper. Restoration can also be seen as a renewal or inner self. When traumas and tragedies, your feelings of inadequacy and not believing in oneself, restoration is a way to bring you back to yourself, bring you back, or to change all your negative feelings about yourself and change them to positive feelings. Now, if you never recognize the positives about you from the beginning, restoring can be useless. And I want to kind of explain, let's elaborate a little bit on that. Let me read it again so that you'd understand. I said, now if you never recognize the positives about yourself from the beginning, restoring can be useless because you don't have anything to restore because you've never recognized you. So when you don't recognize you, how is it that you're restoring anything? It doesn't make any sense. So you have to find the positive things about yourself because we go through life. You know what I realized, and don't want to take long on this, but I realized something in life. I realized that people are more fragile than they perceive. And that's including, I'm putting myself in that category too. Because what I realized was that I come off as being a tough person. But in reality, I'm not really tough. I'm just a soft-hearted person that sometimes don't agree with everything that happens in life. I look for fairness in everything, and I realize that there's no such thing. Sometimes, in some situations, that there's no fairness in it. So that's where my weakness comes from, because I'm always looking for people to treat each other fairly. And if you don't treat each other fairly, it is a problem for me to even associate myself with. So when I say that, the positive thing I see in myself is that I love to see people being treated fairly. The negative is I don't know how to handle it when they don't. So I either get angry, I get mad, and I shut down. Now, those are the things I recognize about myself because I can't tell you about it unless I've recognized those things in myself. And that's what I've done. I've recognized those things. And I constantly talk about it to myself. I have to talk about it to myself because that's who I got to talk to right now. And I have to correct myself a lot of times. And I've always found myself when I've done something or said something, I always have to, and I used to didn't do it, but I do it now where, like, should I have said that? I don't think I should have said that. I always try to second guess myself. And then sometimes your first instinct is your best instinct. Yeah, you should have said that. Get it off your chest so it wouldn't be sitting there and making you angry or depressed by that certain situation or certain thing that you said. And because I pay more attention to my inner self, I notice, that's how I can say that I notice people are more fragile than they perceive. People come off tough and bad and everything, but in reality, that's one thing I can say for sure, that we're all the same as. We're all human beings and we all get our feelings hurt, and we all do not sometimes know how to handle when we get our feelings hurt. So we have to work on all those things to be able to cope with the idea that these type of things happen, and that we actually are going to have some, things that are not going to be the way that we want them to be. And how do we adjust and realize that? Sometimes that's hard to do. Sometimes it's very hard to do, to understand why people do the things that they do to you, and why do you react in the way you do. We react from the way we are, how we are. We react to anything, and that shows, sometimes we react in a way that shows our weaknesses, and then when we don't show our weaknesses during that time, we later on go down and realize that, you know what, I should have handled that differently. I should have said something differently, but after a while it's too late. Whatever's been said has been said, is out in the atmosphere, it's in the universe, and you can't take it back. So I realized that paying more attention to myself, my inner self, I noticed that I am not as tough as I really am. And it's a protection. You got to remember too, lots of times it's a defense mechanism that we use to keep people from hurting us. So we come off tough. We come off condescending. We come off sarcastic. We come off with all like some of our negative attributes of ourselves. And I'm not saying being tough is negative. I'm just saying it can bring out other parts of us that we really don't want people to see. But we can't help it because that's our knee-jerk reaction. Our knee-jerk reaction to anything that happens to us mainly is why lots of times we find ourselves in situations where we have to get ourselves out of. Okay? So if we don't recognize the positives in ourselves, we have to recognize the positives in ourselves before we can talk about restoring who we are. It can be useless. So I'm giving you another example. For example, I felt good about myself. I was self-assured. I was confident. I was strong. I trusted myself. But when my situation happened where I was raped while on my tour duty in Panama, I no longer felt all those positive things or feelings. I felt lost. I was angry at myself because I felt it was my fault. I was no longer in control of me. After many years of feeling depressed, disappointed, and disillusioned, I finally got the help I needed. Or maybe I should have allowed myself to accept the help I needed. It is an ongoing battle. It's an ongoing battle because I still have days that are rough for me, but I'm able to handle them a little bit better. And I am under care. I'm under mental health care. So that helps out a lot. Being under mental health care, having someone to you can talk about some of your issues with, and they can help you, it helps out a lot. So I really, really am asking you guys to definitely seek help. Seek any type of mental professional help. You're going to need it, you guys, in any situation that you find yourself in. So I realized that my restoration was waiting for me. All I had to do was take my power back and understand that I could live without anger. I could live another day without blaming myself, and I didn't have to feel as though I wasn't able to be loved. Okay? Resolutions can be a firm decision to do or not to do. And the quality of being determined. This screams power once you resolve to make a change in your life for the better. It's a firm decision, and you are determined to make sure you stay the course. Don't get discouraged once you're on the path of restoration. Don't get discouraged. Things are not going to always be the way you want it to be. There are going to be some roadblocks, some stumbling blocks, some things that are going to get in your way, but you can move forward. We can also look at this with the mindset of resolving some underlying issues we may have with ourselves, which lots of times we do. We have a lot of underlying issues. I just told you one of my issues that I had. I just described to you how I was feeling after the situation happened, after the incident, after the tragedy, after the trauma took place, how I felt about myself. I had to fix that. I had to, first of all, realize that there was a problem, and the problem wasn't me. I had to realize that. Then I had to move forward and find a solution to why I was feeling that way. Once I realized it wasn't my fault. Beating myself up constantly all the time was becoming very much weary for me, okay? So seek help, whether it's a friend or family member, even your mental health provider can help you to start wanting to heal. You have to want to heal. When you don't want to heal, then it's useless. It doesn't make any sense. So you do want to heal. Because of my past tragedies, I had to resolve issues not only mentally, but emotionally also. The trust issues, the self-esteem issues, feeling awkward didn't help at all. I had to learn how to love myself again, changing how I viewed my life in general. How did I see myself? How do I view myself? I'll tell you what, I'm more woke about me now than I was back then, even with me getting the professional mental health. I still was having that issue. Now, let's talk about resolution. Resolution has to play a role in your journey for searching for yourself and searching for yourself. Spending time being determined and having a firm decision in healing and growing as you forge a path to the ultimate new you. Resiliency, the capacity to recover quickly from difficulty, toughness, and then sometimes in those instances we can recover quickly, but what about the long-term damage that takes place in many of us? There is a long-term damage that everybody does not heal in certain situations the same way. We're told all the time, leave your past in your past, move forward, don't quit dwelling on the past. It's true, don't quit dwelling on the past, but you got to recognize the past and what the past has done to you. Have you learned from not dwelling on the past that you can move forward? I think we should always think about what happened to our past, because our past is what creates our future. Our past is what creates where we're at now in our lives, the stage in our lives where we're able to say, you know what? It happened. It hurt me. I went through a lot. And I do want to move on. In some instances, I can move on. And then there's some instances where we say, I need help moving on. So we have to not just throw away our past, no matter whether it was bad or good, because it's where we are now. We're that person now because of our past. And we have to keep that in mind. It says here, long-term damage can come in many phases of our lives, from childhood trauma to adult trauma. So how does resiliency play in this? I remember during my time in the service, we were programmed that we were programmed that when you got sick, to just suffer it out. It was looked upon harshly to visit the TMC, which was our medical facility. They just call it TMC, which is the small clinics. If you were sick, or another word that was used was going on sick call. That's what we did when we went on sick call. And this is during the time we were in the military. When we were told to take Motrin or go back to work, those were the two things you basically used to have to take in order to get through your day. If you did go, and if by chance you were really hurt, you would receive a profile that is where you're deemed to limit your activities. You're what they would call being out of commission, okay? During this time, you can become ostracized by your team or squad because you cannot work as hard as the rest of them. So there was a way that they treated some people when on sick call, especially when you went on sick call all the time. See, lots of times we come into these military services and people don't realize we're already sick. It's not necessarily all the time that that when you go through your examination or during the time you come in that they're going to recognize those problems. Lots of times those problems are not recognized till after they start affecting you. You know, after you start having different problems and you're going to go see. So constantly you're going to sick call. We call sick call. Well, after a while, people think that they can't work with you because hold up, you're going to go on sick call or she's going to go on sick call. So people didn't want to really work with you because they weren't sick and they sure didn't want to be around you sick. You would find yourself suffering because you don't want to be labeled or feel like you weren't part of the team, okay? So you suffered in silence. Now that might have not been the same for everyone, but there were some of us who felt that way. That mindset never left me as an adult. I would suffer through my pains because of the back of my mind. I didn't want to seem weak. So there was a way it made you feel like you were weak too, because you could no longer work, drive, whatever it is your job was, you couldn't do that job, especially when you had a profile. Okay, let me say this. Even though I was mentally, emotionally a mess, my resiliency kept me from truly throwing in the towel. And yes, there were times when I wanted to throw in the towel. I had to be strong. I had to look like I was together, even though there were times when I wasn't sleeping. There were times when I wasn't sleeping and I was working a full-time job at the same time. I was a single parent of a son. There was no time to cry and no time to heal. So during a period in my life after I remember working all the time, and I remember not getting sleep at that same time. And I think that's when I was living in Kansas. I was having that issue. This is why it's important that we pay attention to our emotional and mental health, especially during a traumatic time in our life. We have to pay attention to what's going on, because if we don't pay attention, something slips and happens and you didn't catch it, okay? In conclusion, looking at the 3 R's, restoration, resolution, and resiliency, we say restoring your mindset to the place where you can overcome all the difficulties. We also discuss how restoration can be a way of renewing your inner self. Resolutions are firm decisions being determined. Make sure you stay the course. I'm sorry, you guys. I don't know where that came from. We also understand that resolution can partner with renewing our mindsets. Renewing our mindsets during the process of changing from negative to positive, and how we look at our basic needs to survive. Okay? Then it says, lastly, resiliency is tough when recovering from difficult situations. The ideal that being resilient helps us to take some of the minor things that may cause setbacks to quickly bounce back and move on in our lives. So let's kind of match that up with what we have in our workbook. Okay, 3 R's. We have how many questions for that? Wow. We have 9 questions for the 3 R's. The first question is, name some adjectives that describes you. What can you name that describes you? What steps would you take to restore your self-worth? What things that you would do to restore your self-worth? Number 3, what are some resolutions you would need to find your self-worth? What would you use to help you and assist you in finding your self-worth? How would you change some of the negative attributes about yourself? How would you do that? Okay. How tough are you? You see, I was talking about how really tough I'm really not. I just look tough. You know, I just look tough. Okay. Is your toughness useful on your journey? If so, why? Is it a necessity that you need to be tough? Okay. Have you ever experienced damage to your self-worth? And was it long term? Is it long term? Okay. Number 8 is, are you ready to change this damage? Are you ready to change it? Are you ready to make sure that you don't continue to stay in this fog that you're in? Number 9 is, do you ever feel as though you don't deserve to be happy? That's the last question. Okay. And that came from the workbook. And that's some good questions that you can answer. Now, let's talk about your inner self real quick. Okay. It says inner self is a person's true or eternal mind, soul, or nature. A quest to find your inner self and your own uniqueness, according to collinsdictionary.com. So we're in search of finding who we truly are, our very being, who we truly are, our very person, the very, very deep down person that we are. How do we search for our inner self? Can we start with the mind? How do we see ourselves in our minds? I know that sounds a little off, but do you know you really can visualize yourself? When I visualize myself, I don't see what others see. I see my perception of me internally. I don't see the outside of me. I focus on my internal. Okay. I see this awkward, deep thinking. I do not like being judged. I see how hard I am on myself about almost everything I do. I see that I am an empath and I love reaching out and helping others. I can see my denial of my full potential. I see how much the fear of failing has created a wall pasted with all the things that I wanted to do and I didn't complete. I could go on and on, but that is not what I am trying to do. I just wanted you to understand how looking within is like. Now, since we're speaking about our inner self, some of you feel like you can lose some weight, more or less hair, better toned bodies, prettier eyes, and we can go on and on. Emotionally, you can battle with trusting yourself, sometimes recognizes the good in yourself, accepting compliments about yourself. You can have issues with owning your accomplishments and feelings you are not enough. Having that feeling that you are not enough no matter what, everything that you try to do, it still comes out as you're not enough. What can I do to make sure that I am enough for anybody that I'm with? How do we do that? How about us just thinking to ourselves, are we really enough for who we are? Can we do that? Yeah, we can do that. Can you ask yourself what makes you unique? And I asked that question on Facebook, and I got some real good answers. Can we find the uniqueness in ourselves? If we say we're not unique, can we find things about us that are not like other people? Can we do that? Yeah, we can do that. And can others truly recognize your uniqueness? Do you friends, do your family, do your audience really pay attention and know that you are this person? And if they can't recognize your uniqueness, then maybe sometimes those type of friends are not what you want. Because you want somebody who you have something in common with. Now, I was going to read this other chapter. Well, I just did. So let's do this. Okay. Let's talk about our inner self. Excuse me, you guys. I don't know why I am sleepy. I don't know what that means. Okay. Okay. So let's talk about inner self. Let's talk about some of the questions we can ask. One question you can ask is, what does your inner self mean to you? Another one, how do you visualize yourself? Imagine you are looking at yourself from the outside. What do you see? Number 3 is, are you very critical of yourself and why? Number 4 is, what is it about yourself that you don't like and why? Give me something about yourself. Okay. There was a time when I didn't like my big nose, but I love my big nose. There was a time when I didn't like my big lips, but I love my big lips. Okay. So what don't I like about myself? Oh, I know. Sometimes I jump to conclusions. I don't like that about myself. I don't like that I do a lot of assuming things. So those are actually 2 different things that I don't like about myself that I can work on and fix. Sometimes I like just being quiet. I don't have to say anything. It gives me time. So, are you very critical of yourself and why? I am, because of the ideal of how I feel about myself. If you have low self-esteem, you're going to be highly critical of yourself. You are. Okay? Number 4 is, what is it about yourself that you don't like and why? I think we read that already. And what about yourself are you proud of? My caring attitude, my willing to always help and give advice to people, even when they don't need it. I'm sorry. What are your values? What makes you sad? What do you want in your life? That's number 8. And number 9 is, are you in control of your emotions? If not, why aren't you? Number 10 is, this is an instructional thing we want you to do. Number 10 is, says, write down your emotions in your journal. Do not look at them for a day, then go back and read what you wrote. Then write down how it made you feel when you reread it. Did you have the same feeling about it once you reread it? Yes, no, what? Could you have changed what you said? Mm-hmm. So it's good to go back and read it and then maybe talk to that person, whoever you felt that way toward. Might need to talk to them. Okay, so again, the book, In Search of You, the workbook, they go together. If you want signed copies, hit me up at info@youcan'tclipmywings.com, or you can go on Amazon and buy both the books. If you buy more than one book, there is a discount. If you buy more than one set, let me say more than one set, that's both of these together. If you buy more than one set, then there's definitely going to be a discount. And the way you find out what the discount is that you can email me to let me know that you're interested in purchasing our book. Okay? So again, I want to thank you guys for hanging out with me. I will be back. I'll come back because I have some other things I want to share with you guys. I got some real exciting things. As you know, you guys, I was telling you guys that I went to Texas. Well, not only did I get a chance to hang out with my friend and take care of her while she was sick and go to Oklahoma, I also did a little shopping. So I'm going to share with you some great deals I got and how important it is for you guys to save money. Okay? So we will definitely get back with that. I want to thank you guys for hanging out with me. You guys have a great, great evening. And bye-bye.